All right, it's Friday, and we're squeezing in one more, one more live stream panel of great authors. I'm glad you're able to check this out. Thank you for checking it out. And by the way, if you miss any of the lives, these are being released every Tuesday and Thursday at bizbookpublishinghub.com. So tune in to wherever you listen to podcasts to find them. And here we go. Writing a book may feel like running a marathon, but it's really like more like an Ironman triathlon, because marathon runners get to stop when they reach the finish line. But an Ironman is a multi-stage journey that challenges you in different ways. So to complete the metaphor, first there's the swim, dipping into your ideas and getting them down on paper. Then comes the long bike ride, where you push through the editing and revising phase. And finally, the run, publishing, and don't forget, marketing your book, which requires just as much stamina and strategy as the rest. It's a test of perseverance, but with the right support and resources, you can cross that finish line successfully. I've created resources to help you find your author community and meet the experts who will help entrepreneurs become successful authors. The Biz Book Publishing Hub has over 50 hub partners ready to guide you through editing, publishing, and marketing your business book. This free resource is available at bizbookpublishinghub.com, where you'll also find out about the free Hub community virtual networking events for writers and authors that I host throughout the year. And you'll find all the archived episodes of this podcast, Biz Book Publishing Hub. Before we dive into this panel discussion, here's a quick word from our sponsor. With me today are 5 authors. With me today are 3 authors. Brendan McAdams wrote Sales Craft, Proven Tips, Tactics, and Ideas to Elevate Your Sales, which provides actionable strategies and techniques designed to enhance sales performance and help professionals succeed in their sales behaviors. Darcy Eikenberg wrote Red Cape Rescue, Save Your Career Without Leaving Your Job, a transformative guide to overcoming personal challenges and fostering resilience from the comfort of your own space. It empowers readers to take charge of their lives. And Mary Kelly wrote Stop Procrastinating Tomorrow, Attack What's Holding You Back, to offer practical strategies and motivational insights to help readers overcome procrastination and take actionable steps toward achieving their goals. Please join me in welcoming Brendan, Darcy, and Mary. Brendan, I'm going to kick this first question over to you. I'd love to know more about your audience for this book. When you're writing the book, who was the ideal reader that you had in mind?
So the first book, Salescraft, was really focused on kind of more experienced salespeople that are going into enterprise accounts. And this book, in the last several years, I've been doing a lot of work coaching with early stage startups and running accelerator and running training programs. And so this book is really focused on the early stage founder that's got an idea, starting to think about how to execute on that idea. And they oftentimes make a bunch of miscalculations, or they put off selling. And so what I do in this book, it's really for that crowd, for the early stage entrepreneur and founder of a company.
That's awesome. And we've got lots of folks like that listening in. Darcy, share with us a little bit about who you had in mind for your book.
Yeah, when I wrote Red Cape Rescue, it really was to speak to the everyday professional, someone who's had great experience in their career, who hits a speed bump, right? It hits that roadblock, hits that time where they're just like, let's stop it all, and I want to run away, and I just want to leave everything. Because the truth is that so much of the noise in the media is that when you're not happy with your job, the option is to leave. But there are so many things we can take control of in between the place of staying and leaving. It's not two sides. So this book really dives into how you can take control back of your career, and is really a guide to transform your career for any professional who's had some experience and wants to keep growing.
What I love about it is a lot of times the advice from friends, if you're having trouble at a job, is to find a new job. But after a while, you start to maybe realize the common denominator is you. So for those people who finally realize that, sounds like a great resource. Mary, let's bring you into the conversation. I know you've written lots of books, so let's talk about who this book was written for.
This book is called Stop Procrastinating Tomorrow. Let's face it, we all procrastinate. It's just on different things. But there's a science behind why we procrastinate. Why does our brain get in the way of us getting done what we need to get done? And I saw a lot of this over COVID when many people were simply paralyzed into inactivity. They were afraid to make decisions. They were afraid to take risks. They were afraid to do things, even if those things could benefit them in the long run. Why do some people seem to get more done? And why do some people just struggle? There's actually a science behind it. This is not a science book. This is hey, I know you're struggling right now. We all struggle. How can we best make the best use of our time and accomplish what we really want to do? So this is written for people who have ever felt like their to-do list is too long, too onerous, and they're feeling overwhelmed by everything they have to get done. This is for you.
What I love is I interviewed someone earlier this week who's part of the Kindle Cross promotion, and they wrote a time management book for sales professionals. So really specifically how to manage the sales process. I like that we are recognizing that people need help with this, that it's not intuitive. When we see someone doing well, it looks like magic, but they have systems and processes, and they also have a way of thinking that is probably making it a lot easier. Because I know that piece that you said about what happened when the pandemic hit. I feel like you and I met through the National Speakers Association. I feel like a good 50% of my friends hit the brakes. Some said, oh, time for sabbatical. I'll look up again in a month and see what's happening. And then the other half of us hit the gas and experimented and tried and tested and did. Some of us maybe did a little too much and burned out a little bit too, because we're trying everything. But it is interesting how we respond to adverse circumstances, which makes me think a little bit about Darcy. It's like there's lots of things happening in the world. How do we respond to it? Darcy, actually, I want to come back to you about you've had more than one book. So I want to talk about when you go back to the first book you wrote, and you're thinking about what back then when you knew nothing about being an author, what was going to be a metric of success that you were keeping an eye on for that initial book? Like, first of all, did you know other authors? Were you like thinking long term? Was there a bigger plan, or was it like, I have this idea and I'm gonna hit publish? So was there, what was the metric that you were like, this is how I know this book has made it?
Yeah, great question. So my first book is called Bring Your Superpowers to Work, Your Guide to More Clarity, Confidence, and Control. And it was early on in my business. I've now had a leadership development business for 16 years. So it was maybe in the first 3 or 4 years. And I felt compelled to put a book together to crystallize some of my thinking at the time. And really, my metric wasn't anything more than, I might call it a big business card, that I wanted to be able to have ideas that were gelled in one place. I had always written a weekly newsletter. I still do a weekly blog, share ideas on a regular basis with what I call my insider community. And yet, the idea of having a book, having something in a physical form, was of value to me. Now, as time goes on, you recognize that the ideas that you had, there are some core things that never change. For me, there were things that grew and evolved. And, when I look back at that book, I think I said this to you earlier, Robbie, it's like, it doesn't fully represent who I am and what my brand is today, but I'm really glad that I did it, that I took the first step, because it also motivated me when it was time to put new ideas in a new format and to reach a bigger audience, that I'm like, okay, how do I want to do this differently? What are the things I've learned? And who else do I need to support me on this journey that I didn't even know existed back when I did the first book?
Oh, gosh, there's so much to learn as a first-time author. It's like, we didn't even know what questions to ask. I'm curious, with that new knowledge, as you approach the second book, were there any specific things you approached differently? Like, are there experts you hired or metrics you were focused on? Like a couple of things that maybe stand out to you?
So for me, a couple of things were that I didn't want to go it alone. I had pretty much independently managed my first book, which was fine. I had target support for different areas. There weren't as great of hybrid publishers as supporters of, people who can support like you in the broader end-to-end process. There weren't those kind of people out there at that that first part of my career. But I really wanted good partners. I wanted to raise the profile of the book. I had already developed good marketing in my business and had good end offers, but I wanted a partner with a good reputation and that would really up-level the professionalism of the process as well as the end product. I really wanted something that for my key client, who is a more experienced corporate professional, that they could carry and read on an airplane and it looks professional and can compete with the other books that they have, but still be accessible and easy and be helpful in the end.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Darcy. Brendan, you have a new book that's about to come out as we speak. It's like in the final stages of getting ready. So, lessons learned from the first time around to now, like what has shifted for you in your thinking as you approach this new book?
I think the first thing is I've decided to make, just given the nature of people's attention spans and the like, I've made the book much more concise than my previous book. My previous book was about 200 pages, and this one's going to probably be around 100, 120. And it's going to be much more concise and formatted to make it much easier and more digestible for folks, because I think we're struggling with attention spans, and what I'm trying to do is get down to just the crux and the most actionable components in terms of starting your sales process with an early stage founder. And so I've done. I don't spend a lot of time marketing the book as much as I probably should, because for me it's much more of it's a resource that I use in conjunction with my training and with consulting engagements and the like. And so it's much more of a credibility and a content store for me more than anything else. And it also, one of the kind of funny things about writing a book is I found is that it really kind of helps you to coalesce your ideas more and make them more compact and more compelling and more digestible than because it forces you to think about them and in a structured way for other folks.
Right. I actually know lots of authors who have both on their own or hired someone who, through writing a book, actually created and named a framework that they had blogged about and blogged about and blogged about and blogged about, but like that made them make it like a 5-step process or something, and then like and really map that out. So I think that a good book can help you really solidify your business sort of concepts into a digestible format. Mary, oh yes, Brendan.
The one other thing I was going to say on that topic is it also kind of helps it's beneficial in the sense it oftentimes reinforces that, oh, you know what, I know a fair amount about this topic. There's a lot that I kind of had forgotten about, or that's just, or more often just comes naturally, that it's second nature to you because you've been doing it so often. And the book is a way to kind of force you to think about those things and kind of put them out in an organized fashion. So yeah, it's been useful.
Thank you for that. That's okay. Mary, I want to bring you into the conversation. What year did you publish your first book? I just want to know I'm going to ask you to go back to that mindset, but it feels like it's been a while. You got a lot of books under your belt. So when did you first do that? Was that early in your speaking career as well, or was it before even that?
It was before that. I was in the Navy for 25 years, so I got to learn leadership lessons from the world's greatest leaders. And when I was in the Navy asked me to put together a compilation of some leadership. So I worked with a team, and it got published. It got published by a major publishing company, and this was, this was back in 2004 or 5, something like that. And then they use it for military training, which is great. But that's 1,000 people a year who are buying a book that they will probably never read. Let's be honest. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But it makes you feel good because your name's in print and all of that. And it was for a very specific group of people. And then there was a follow-on group to that. Now, again, I'm on active duty in the Navy, so I do not get paid and I do not get royalties. And then I was in academia for several decades. I'm actually a professor. My PhD's in economics, and I am a data-driven person. And I was sitting around an academic table one time, and one of my colleagues was bemoaning the fact that another of our colleagues was writing books, and goodness sakes, they were actually writing books that people wanted to buy. They weren't forced to buy it because they were in the classroom. And I thought, well, that's probably a better idea. So really my first real book came after I retired from the Navy. And it took me about 8 years to get that first book written. I wanted it to be sort of military leadership, but people just can't relate to that. So instead, it's called Master Your World, 10 dog-inspired leadership principles to improve productivity, profits, and communication. It's really military, but I use my dogs as an example, which makes it more palatable.
I mean, way more relatable for a lot of us. That's great. I love that you were able to like recognize the limitations and then find a way to expand it so that your ideas still get received really well by people, and that you weren't like, no, it's going to have to be the same, this is what I always did. And that openness, the idea that people could write books that people want to buy and read, like it's a startling concept in academia.
It really is.
So when you were doing this, did you already have speaking on your radar? Like, was that something you were doing outside of academia, or was that even yet to come?
Well, I was on active duty in the Navy. People call up all the time and say, hey, can we get the admiral or the general to come talk to our group of people? Well, the admiral and the general, they're usually busy. And I liked speaking in front of people. Robbie, as you know, I would rather speak in front of crowds of people than be on vacation. The bigger, the better. I just love it. It's what makes me so happy. So I would rebraid my hair, slap on some lipstick. I'm still in my little Navy uniform, and I would go off and do these speaking jobs. So you're not getting paid. You're paying for all your own gas and your own expenses and all of that. But people really resonated with the message of improving productivity and communication. And then I just put profitability in there because I grew up in a business. So it was a very easy transition for me. So I already had been doing a lot of speaking. I'd been doing a lot of teaching for the military. I'd been a military professor at the Naval Academy. And then as a civilian, I was a professor at the Air Force Academy for another 10 years. I taught in the Graduate School of Colorado State University. So my approach to teaching was more along the lines of what a professional speaker would do. I had the beginning and the end and the things and the stories and all the things wrapped up into it. So every classroom for me was an opportunity to do a show. And so I got years and years and years of practice.
That's amazing. I've met a lot of people who work with folks as they're transitioning back into civilian life and to try to help them match their skills that they've acquired into a new role. And some of them have a really hard time finding that translation point. But you had all these reps that you had learned, like it was a skill that would very easily come over. And you had also find a talk that you could make relatable to a wider audience. I love this. So as someone who's been doing books, I feel like seasonally, it's another season. It's time for Mary to have another book. So as new books have been coming out, what metrics do you track to know the book is successful? Like, what are you keeping an eye on? The sales, reviews, like leads? Like, what's the thing you keep an eye on?
Great question. The standards. First, how many books have you sold? How many Kindles have you sold? I break those out. How many Amazon reviews do you have? Do you have any bad Amazon reviews? And if so, was it a warranted review? Let's face it, not everybody loves everything we do, and that's okay. But sometimes people are just mean, or they'll say, I didn't even open the book. Well, then why would you give it a 1-star review? You're kind of a troll. That's fine. So the idea is to try to make the book relevant. So the metrics are easy, but for me, some of the more motivating things are the anecdotes. It's things like, this was exactly the book I needed at the right time. Or it was people who say, I was so frustrated, I thought I was the only one. Or some people who say things like, this is so perfect for my kid. You thrive on those anecdotal things, but you don't believe them always. So when somebody says, oh my gosh, I need this for every person in my company, you can't decide to pay your mortgage on that statement. You have to go, okay, can I help facilitate this? Can I help you do this? For me, the metrics are important, but what's really important to me is the follow-on. So I use my books as a marketing tool as well for my speaking business, as well as my leadership and economic development consulting business. So I will do a book launch, and every day is book launch day. Everybody has to remember that every day is book launch day, but I will print out I will get 200 and 300 copies and I will mail those out. And I will mail those out with my speaker one sheet. I will mail that out with another thing. I will mail that out with the workbook. Hey, thinking of you, hope that everything is going great. So sales are very different for me than printing. Some people say, well, I printed 5,000 books. Good for you. But if you're giving them away and that's not generating revenue, that maybe that strategy could be relooked in a way that might be more advantageous for you.
Because you mentioned reviews, and reviews are kind of my happy place. Maybe not everyone's. Sorry for those who think it's like going to the dentist or something. But I noticed, I was just scrolling through your Author Central page and all your books. Great covers. So they all pop. They're all different. It's not like they're all, the exact same design, but they are all really well designed. And there's ratings and then there's reviews. So there's the ratings is the stars, the top. Which people don't have to buy your book to leave a 1-star or 5-star rating. But the written reviews are awesome. And I'm seeing that you've got a good number. I mean, even for the book that we were just talking about, the Stop Procrastinating Tomorrow, which is a fun title, you have 43 total ratings and 38 written reviews. Anything over 20 means you made an effort. If you some of your books, you have over 50. What's your process for getting reviews? We'd all love to hear a secret or two about where they come from. Are you doing lots of follow-up? Is it organic? Where are these reviews coming from?
I love my family and friends, but after a while you run out of those. And they are not, you can't always rely on your family and friends to do those reviews, but you do have to get the reviews out quickly as soon as that book hits, because the little Amazon and whatever algorithms, those matter. I got very, very lucky on the Stop Procrastination book. It was an accident, and I need to share that this was an accident. I was trying to do a pre-sale thing, and I wasn't the one managing that, and there was a little bit of an error. So the book came out as a Kindle instead of as a pre-sale, which was a little bit of an error. But I had the best fortune to be at a conference that day. So what I did, and it was a Kindle for 99 cents, is I had thought ahead on this. And I said, hey, folks, I want to give you my book today. And I passed out $1 bills. And I said, go get it today while it's 99 cents. So all of a sudden there was this rush. So that was a really good way to get people to go and do it right now, because they had the dollar in their hand. Now, let's hope that dollar really didn't make a decision or a difference for them between, eating and not eating that day. Hopefully they would have spent the dollar, but you can't count on that. But the dollar makes them do it. So I passed out dollar bills. I said, please help me out. The book came out by accident today. It's on a Kindle. If you'll go grab it and get it, and then if you can do a review later, that would be great. That happened. And it was so fortuitous that I was at a conference. So I got some really good push right away. And then organically reviews kind of popped in after that.
Two things I want to say. One is, if you do have reviews of a certain number, organic reviews tend to show up. So I don't know, where maybe over 30 or so, I do feel like organic reviews are more likely. If you have no reviews or 2 reviews, kind of less, I don't know why, but less likely people to make the effort. I also would hope that people would be willing to spend 99 cents to get the book from the speaker without the dollar. And just be careful of Amazon rules for those who are listening, because there are some strict rules about, what you can give people in exchange for a review. She did not ask people to write a review in exchange for that dollar.
No.
She just said, I'm going to reimburse this book for you. And here's the fun thing is, you could also list your book through KDP Select for free for 5 days during your launch. And those reviews, if people buy the book, or I should say download the book for free through the Zero purchase, that those reviews are actually still verified. They track them. The unfortunate thing is that KDP Select also has your book in the KDP Unlimited, the Kindle Unlimited library. And for whatever reason, those are not counted as Amazon verified reviews. It's very confusing. And this is one of the reasons you got to work with people who know what's going on. And I really love your comment about friends and family and neighbors and all of that. Here's what I've learned from working with authors around their launch. Friends and family and neighbors may be willing, with a lot of coercion and reminders, to write reviews, but they don't have budgets and they don't need the thing you're writing about, and they don't know people who need it. So they're not going to make referrals. So it may get you some reviews, but that same effort could go to your past clients, prospective clients, current clients, referral partners out in the world and all that stuff. Brendan, you have not really focused on reviews because, as you said, you've really been focusing more on getting this book to the people that you've been working with. It's kind of more of that calling card. You were on a call the other day where we talked about reviews. What are your thoughts on reviews?
I think they're important because if you get them, they do help validate the effort and give you feedback that I think is really useful. So this second time around, I'm making much more of a concerted effort to get some early reviews and get some traction, because ultimately what I find happens with the book is I end up getting customers as a result of the book.
Yes.
I don't really care that much about the purchase of the book itself. That's not a revenue source for me, but I have had several instances where someone's read the book and then I've been engaged with them for extended periods of time. And so for me, I'm using that to get more traction. And so I'm doing some of the things that you suggest in terms of reaching out to people ahead of the launch and kind of gently cajoling them to produce a review, giving them some background on what how to do a review, getting it to them ahead of time, or getting the review from them ahead of time, and then reminding them at the time when the book does in fact go live that they place the review and then make the purchase and all that sort of stuff.
You've been paying attention. You've been taking notes. That's my whole process.
Yeah, it's quite clever, and it does make a lot of sense. And it does seem to drive some more kind of organic sales.
What's great is if you're focusing that whole process on people who would want to buy the book or book you to speak or buy the bulk order of books, then all that energy as a business owner is worthwhile energy. Darcy has been waiting very patiently because we now have to share that there are 98 ratings and 91 written reviews on Darcy's book.
Wow.
Whoa. So Darcy, you have a lot of neighbors. No, seriously though.
But there's 2 people short to get to 100. So if you're listening, you could be number 100.
So let's help Red Cape Rescue hit 100 ratings. But it's those 91 written reviews. There's a couple of things I want to point out. One is the ratio between 98 and 91 is pretty close. I always find there's a little bit of like when there's like 123 or 223 ratings and less than 10 reviews. I'm like, and they're walking around like, I have over 200 reviews. I'm like, no, you don't. You just, what? It's one thing to ask people to hit the 5 stars, right? But how did you what was your process for getting 91 reviews? Who are these people that wrote them?
And so my process was blocking and tackling. It was recognizing what is my audience that I'm already in relationship with. So certainly there were the friends and the family and the fellow authors, and I'm somebody who has always professed that if someone has gone to the effort of putting their life's work into a book, then I want to be there to support them, even if I quite honestly may not read the book, but treat it as a vote of confidence. It's a vote of confidence for the author's body of work. So I try to make a personal effort to buy, to review. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. But so that's something I try to put into the world. And I think some of that comes back. But also I have a pretty robust email list that I work with, nurture on a regular basis. I have corporate clients, and if we may do a larger effort, then I always negotiate permission to be able to go back to everybody afterward and invite them, if you will, to leave a review for the book. But it is really the execution consistently over time. So we track, we have lists of people that I've reached to, and then as reviews come in, my team takes them off the list, and so we keep reminding people. And it's a fascinating process because so many people have said, oh, I want to do this, but then getting to the execution, feeling like, well, it has to be a book report. And I often will say to folks, it's not a book report. It's really a vote for the author. It's really a review. It's really an endorsement of, would someone like you want to read this? And so reframing it in some ways, especially my audience, being a higher level corporate audience, they're cautious about what they're visible about, right? They even things they like, they often are not promoting it to the world in the same way maybe an entrepreneurial audience or a consumer audience might be. So it really has been a lot of one-on-one guerrilla marketing, personal asks, reminders.
That piece you just said about the knowing your audience and how you might have to support them maybe a little differently, I think is worth noting. Certain industries might have more reticence to writing a public review than others. But the idea of prompts. So I have 4 prompts that I like to share when we're doing a book launch. One is, what is your top takeaway or insight? Share a line or a quote that resonated with you from the book. What's one thing you'll do differently because of this book? And the last one is something like, who else should read this book? Like who should read this book? And I say, just answer 2 or 3 sentences. Like pick any 2 or 3 of these prompts and write a sentence. And that'll be a great book, because a good review isn't so much 5 stars. It's that it helps future readers know whether the book is for them or not. And I've made this joke now so many times, but my wife is an avid listener. She has about 280 books a year, mostly audio, and she does a ton of romance. And she's said, like, maybe she'll read a book, look at a book review on Goodreads, and there's a 1 star, and the person says, "Oh, too much smut." And she's like, "Ooh, what's this book?" Right? So someone else's yuck is someone else's yum, right? It's not that the 1-star review does not actually deter, it might also attract. And so having people write quality reviews is really helpful. And so I love the idea that we just have to find ways to support people and nurture them through. And the follow-up reminders, I hear you also saying, Darcy, polite persistence. You have a system. You're checking Amazon. Here's what I will tell audience members does not work. Asking once. Hey, will you be on my launch team? Sure. And then it's like, oh, was this supposed to do for Darcy? Oh gosh. And then it's like, I start feeling bad. I remember the time, and then I don't want to see you. I'm like, oh, we might cross paths at that place. I may not, she's going to ask me about it. So we want to attract people, not repel them by asking them to participate. So if they set the intention, we have to help them follow through. Darcy, other than reviews, which just has its own headache, what was challenging for you about this whole book writing process? You've now got 2 under your belt. Is there something that you were like, oh, I knew I had to hire people for that, or that wasn't my thing? You know, I learned a lot from book 1 that I was definitely going to not do that part of my own.
Yeah, I think recognizing you can't do everything that you think of. The scope of marketing, and I went into creating the book knowing that the marketing is probably the more important piece in many ways. I wanted to have a good book, a good product, something that would help somebody. And I knew that no one was going to find it on their own. The universe was not going to just open up and create space for this one book in the sea of so many awesome books. So I knew it was on me and my team to be in service and get the book out there as, in many ways as possible, and get the ideas of the book out there. But even knowing that and planning for that, I think I underestimated the level of exhaustion is probably the fair word, when the book is out. And I find myself saying this to a lot of colleagues who are considering books. It's like, when the book is out, it is not done. The book is never done. And it sounds like my fellow participants here who've done more books than I have, found that. And just continually, I would have planned differently up front about my energy and my actions ongoing. And I probably would have engaged more help and some more systems and routines to be able to put that in place. I think there's a point where, after kind of the first initial energy push, that it's very easy to just let everything go. And you never quite know when that tipping point is. You never quite know when this is the conversation that's going to lead to the broader speaking engagement where they're going to buy 300 books. And so consistently staying in motion on that. And, it's hard when you're running a broader business where books aren't the primary part of your business, right? Because other things can come into place.
So I've heard from several authors that the Kindle cross promotion campaign, which I'm offering twice a year, has helped them actually get re-engaged and re-energized for older books in their lists. Like, I mean, Mary, your book, this book we're talking about is not your most recent. You've got newer babies to talk about from this one. So I think finding a reason to kind of get re-engaged, get re-excited, see a little spike in sales. And here's something that I've been telling people one-on-one who are authors joining the Kindle Cross promotion. I ask authors to lower their Kindle book price to 99 cents 2 weeks before they campaign, because I'm managing 100 books and I can't have you all do it last minute because somehow it won't work. But you could use those 2 weeks to do another push for reviews. So that would be a good time, Darcy, is to sign up for the campaign, have that list ready, tell them now's your time to, if you haven't gotten it yet, go get it and leave your review. And here's the support we're going to provide for you. Mary, let's come back to you.
Robbie, what I did on the last promotion that you did was I did a webinar on the content of the book. And then I said, but I have this amazing gift for all of you on this webinar. It's a free webinar out to my list and I pulled up all of your list of all those Kindle books. And I said, you know what, do yourself a favor, pick 5 books, spend $5 today. You got a free program, you got all these free resources, but go spend $5 today and find 5 books that you think would help you for the rest of the year. So, so there's ways that we can all promote each other, and all of us find different ways to do that.
That was brilliant. I'm so glad you aired that here. I'm planning to do a little, let's all get together to have a little kickoff and do some brainstorming. I'll make sure this gets shared out to people, because someone else said to me that they accidentally, kind of like your accident with the Kindle book, but they hadn't planned ahead to have a presentation that overlapped with their book being discounted before the campaign. And they had this sort of aha moment. So this is before the campaign was live. So they just sort of said, oh, hey, by the way, this is happening, but you can get my book now. And then you can get all these other books when it's out. And they saw a spike in sales before the campaign started, because our goal is to get the book into the right hands. That's the purpose of this. And Mary, while we're with you, I'm curious how you keep your energy and enthusiasm up for marketing when you have all these books, like both not exhausting the list of people you're going to, not exhausting your team, not exhausting your own. You have a whole nother life, besides writing books, very full life, running a business and a family and all the rest. So, do you stay enthusiastic for the launch of the next one? Or is it like, okay, yeah, we'll push this one out? Because clearly you're doing well. You're getting reviews. You're co-authoring some of these books, I think, to kind of bring some energy in. How do you sustain this so many books in?
I wake up with good energy every day. I'm wildly blessed about that. I was that hyperactive kid that no parent wanted, because I wake up and go, okay, what are we going to do today? Yay. And every single day, I have checklists that I work through every single day. I do my productivity sheet every single day. I have my 12-month planner every single day. And there is a book goal so I have 5 goals for every month. And one of those goals is always revolved around a book, either the current book, a past book, or reinvigoration of a book. And the succession planning book is still wildly successful. The Who Comes Next, that's the leadership succession planning book, is doing really well. Succession planning is a new crisis in business that people just now figured out, oh my gosh, we're not going to live forever. Maybe we need to plan for something. The Why Leaders Fail book and the 7 prescriptions for leadership success continue, it's the roller coaster. And all of a sudden I'll see a blurb and all of a sudden there'll be all these sales. I'm like, what happened to generate these sales? And sometimes, folks, you just don't know. And sometimes somebody will say, hey, Mary, I just want to let you know my book club picked up your book. And all of a sudden you go, oh, wow. Book clubs need this book. And then I'll get this crazy idea, because I get crazy ideas all the time. Hey, I should do a new book club facilitator guide and send it out to them, because they've got this really big thing. So I'll do like a 3 or 4 page book facilitator guide that's all brand new for 2025 or something like that. And I'll incorporate new things and new graphics and new things. And then I send it out to everybody. And then there's another blip. So in this business, success begets success. Little triggers beget more triggers. And then you do one facilitator guide. You're like, hey, I got 19 other books. Maybe I need 19 of them. And then you're like, okay, go take a nap, go relax, go have a glass of wine, chillax, stop. So you kind of have to pace yourself. But I do have great team members who are terrific at the graphics. So for me, I know that doing the graphics is not my skill set. Writing is fine. So I will draw out what I want. I type out the words. I send it to my team. They come up with really great stuff. And then I share that on a free page on my website and say, hey, here's some free resources for this new book. Great for your book club. Oh, by the way. And then I tag people who like it. And then that incorporates that. So So the fun thing is every day is a new day. Every day I get excited about something. I'm like a puppy. And every day something comes in that goes, oh yeah, maybe I should loop back around on that. Like we're doing this today. So this morning I went on Amazon. I was like, hey, here's a link to this book. Here's the free resources, and threw it out on social media. Like you have to do it every single day. People get tired of hearing you push the same book all the time. So you can rotate them through, you can rotate other things through. And my friend Gina Schreck, she said, if you're on social media, entertain, be informative, and be helpful, be genuine when you do it, and just try different things and see what works, see what sticks.
I love it. I love the idea of setting goals, because we want to see progress. We should have something to measure against. But then having those strategies against those goals so we can make sure that we're doing something each day or each week towards the results we want. Just lamenting that we're not getting book sales is not enough, right? Just complaining over a glass of wine versus having that burst of energy, putting something together. But also, you don't have to do it for all the books all at once. I like the idea of balancing that. Brendan, I'm curious what your most effective marketing strategy has been for lots of book sales. I mean, a lot of times people have said speaking, so that's probably part of your answer. But I'm curious if it's that or if it's something else like collaborations, cross promotions. Like, what's helped have book clubs? What's sort of spiked some sales for you that you're able to maybe initiate?
That's a great question. For me, it's been consulting engagements mostly. And I've done so oftentimes they purchase a book along with a consulting engagement or a training session or training program that I do. So that's been the big one. The other one has been I've done some speaking engagements that are virtual and some in person. And the virtual ones, in a couple of instances, they purchased the book along with the speaking engagement. So everybody that attended got a copy of the book along with the speaking engagement. So those have been the things where, bulk sales, where that's been useful. I oftentimes give it out to people as well, and in some cases I'll mail it to someone and say, hey, this person in your organization should be reading something like this, or here, this may prompt them some ideas. And then I use it sometimes I'll take a chapter out of it and send it to if I see someone on social media that's got a question on a particular thing, I've oftentimes addressed that in a chapter in the book, and I'll send them that chapter, and then that ends up either getting an engagement or sometimes it gets a book sale.
That's awesome. I really appreciate this. Now, you've referenced, Brendan, a few times that it's about sales, which makes sense. You are the B2B sales coach, right?
Right.
So when someone is reading your book and they get excited and they're like, ooh, I need this, what's the path from them reading the book to being in front of you? Like, is your email in there? Is there a link? Is there bonus content? Like,
yes.
How do people sort of move from one to the other?
Yeah, all those things are in there, and so there'll be some additional supporting material and templates and resources that they can easily access. They just download, and then that typically will get them connected to two things. One is into my CRM, and so then I know that I reach them, I connected with them through the book, and that's useful because then you kind of know when you get a book sale in a meaningful way, because oftentimes that information is not really that transparent to you if the purchase is made via Amazon. And then they also get connected to me on my newsletter, and I send out a newsletter from time to time and updates, and so those things are kind of next. And then they also I will routinely send an email out. They get tagged a certain way, and so if they bought a certain book at a certain time, I'll send something out. And at the end of the year, I send out a 2020, the current planning workbook that I just sent out via email to people. It's a PDF. It's to just kind of plan their sales strategy for 2024 or 2025 as it is.
I love it. So there's a whole nurture sequence, lots of different paths forward. At any point, they can hit reply, schedule a chat with you. They know how to find you. I really love this. I mean, one of the things I've really been focusing on for my last two books, my second book in particular, I did this where everyone who got the bonus content, I have a 4 email sort of series. So they get the download. They get the download, and then they also get, like, a couple days later, the email has the link for the download again, but it says like, hey, did you get this? Like, have you done the first step? Here's the first step. A couple days later, hey, by the way, like if you haven't gotten it yet, it's here, and here's the third step, and like just kind of walking them through. And then I added recently, like I do these pop-up masterminds around content in that book where people can do some content and then come do a little program with me for 2 hours. So add that to the series so people can join the wait list for that. So it's just like thinking like if they're going to engage, like how do you really bring them in around the thing they care most about, which is presumably wanting to open the book. But we also know people who buy books and they just, whether they're actually stacked or there's this Kindle stacked, we all have those books.
And some of it's just attention span, and they got distractions and so forth. Right. And so if you can just be kind of gently remind them, it's not unlike, get the way Darcy and Mary are able to get reviews is you just sort of gently remind people and encourage them. And then because everyone has a busy life and they get distracted by other things. Yeah.
In a moment, I'm going to go to Darcy to ask her what advice she would give to someone who's writing a book to help them grow a business. Darcy, you can either reinforce the message from earlier, or maybe there's something new you really wanted to add. But first, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsor. Darcy, lay it on us. What are you going to share?
I think the advice that I would give someone is to choose the topic that you want to live with for a number of years. Because it doesn't end with the book being done. In many ways, that is just the beginning. And you want to be enthusiastic, energetic, and be able to stay in motion sometimes when things get hard, no matter what.
Appreciate that. Mary, what would you share with someone who's thinking about writing a book to help them grow their business?
So if you're writing a book to help you grow your business, you have to be very, very clear on how it helps you grow your business. If you're doing it to clarify it for you and a select group of people, that's great. If you're doing it to generate more business, then that's a different approach altogether. Really make sure you know what your goal is to help with your business promotion.
Yeah, that's the piece that I used to think, Mary, that I wanted to talk to people about their launch when they had a manuscript that was ready for the editor. And I have realized that is not that it's too late, but it's so much easier to have that conversation when they're like, I'm thinking about writing a book. Because I'm not a writing coach or a developmental editor, but I'm a strategist. So I'll make sure that they have all that lined up. I'll say, I sometimes ask a question, Mary, to an author who has a book that's published, and it feels like a gotcha question, and it wasn't meant to be. I will say, oh, great. So how does this book help you grow your business, Mary?
Because Robbie, you and I know a lot of people who say, well, I wrote this book because it's my passion. Okay, that's patently stupid, in my opinion. It's great if you just want to do this autobiographical thing for your friends and your family about one particular member of your family or your story that you really want to get out there. But is your story about fill in the blank really going to help your business? You have to be very, very intentional. And there's a way to do it. You can either do a small book, which is just that very niched thing about you, your life, your passion, or you can use it for business. Two different things.
We have our mutual friend who wrote, Phil M. Jones, wrote exactly what to say. It's a concise book. It's direct to a certain audience. It's very clear who it's for. It was hybrid published. It has been printed. It's like 1.5 million copies sold. I've lost track of how many languages, more than 30 languages. I mean, like that's a book that's helping him grow his business. And it's a really clear message. And I think that's what we sometimes forget. It's not this 300-page 6x9 book. It's something that people can flip through and use right away. So I think we also sometimes get in our own way what we think a book needs to be. And I love his example, because when we have people who become an Amazon international bestseller because they sold like one Canadian and one US category #1, and then they reprint their book, I'm like, what? I mean, I've hit #1 30 times across 4 countries, which is in itself really cool, but I'm not an international bestselling author. That's what Phil is. Like, let's just all be clear about the difference. Brendan, what advice? I'm getting on my soapbox here. Brendan, what's the advice you'd share for people who are writing a book to help them grow a business?
The two things that I would say. One is I would certainly say when you write the book, be very cognizant of who your audience is. And it's much more about solving a problem for them and understanding what it is that they want rather than what it is what you want to talk about. So whatever topic you're covering, make sure that you're really putting yourself in the position, standing in the shoes of your audience, and really know who your audience is. And it's probably more niche than you think. And the other thing I would say is it's really helpful to have someone as kind of a coach helping you with the book. I had a buddy work with me on mine, and being able to bounce ideas off and have someone who can be very blunt and specific about issues and confusion with the book, really helpful. So those would be the two things I would say really helped me out a lot.
I appreciate that, Brendan. And that piece you said about making sure you're writing a book with the intended audience in mind. Make sure that they're part of the conversation as you're writing the book. Like, don't sequester yourself for 90 days, write out a book, hit publish, and then be hopeful that this is a match. Like, have engagement. I ran workshops on my content. I mean, there's just lots of ways to test out ideas, social posts, blog posts, see, emails, see what resonates. Brendan, how can people find you and follow your work?
I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, Brendan McAdams, and you can. And then, of course, my website is kinetics.com, KIINETICS. And by all means, if you've got sales related issues, contact me. You can book a quick call, and we can see if it makes sense for me to help you.
Thanks. I love it. Darcy, what about you? How can people find you and follow your work?
Again, LinkedIn is a great place to find me, but everything else in my world is at redcaperevolution.com, and redcaperevolution.com/insiders is where people can sign up for my free weekly tips and ideas and inspiration.
Brilliant. And Mary, how about you?
We are productiveleaders.com, because let's face it, who wants an unproductive leader? Productiveleaders.com. I am Mary at productiveleaders.com. I respond to all my own emails. I enjoy getting emails. I'm on the road a lot. I get lonely. I'm needy. I need friends. So send me an email if you've got any questions on anything, leadership, economics, dogs, or wine. Hit me up.
I really want some people to just start writing you to chat about leadership, dogs, wine. I mean, I think that's just be some combination of all three. All those links and links to their books will be available at bizbookpublishinghub.com, which is also where you'll find more than 50 experts ready to help you become a successful business author, whether it's writing, editing, publishing, marketing, whatever help you need. You'll find all these show notes and an invitation to attend the free virtual networking event that I host for writers and authors. We hope to see you there. bizbookpublishinghub.com. Thank you once again to our panelists for this amazing conversation.